All right. Hello again, adventurers, and welcome to another exciting daily vlog. This is Daily Vlog 2025, number 79. And today, we are here to bid a fond farewell to Project Sigil. If anyone is unaware what's going on right now, quick recap. So for a little while now, Wizards of the Coast has been developing a 3D virtual tabletop. The number of successful 3D virtual tabletops that currently exist, I believe I can count on one finger. It's an extremely new thing. I actually own a 3D virtual tabletop that's currently in early access called Tailspire, which I learned about because Dropout, our specifically Dimension 20, one of their campaigns that they did. They actually partnered with Tailspire and used it extensively for that particular campaign. I thought it was really cool. I like the idea of a 3D tabletop, so I have it. So, Wizards of the Coast, I don't know exactly how long it's been in development, but it was officially announced last summer. And one of the ways that they announced it was at Gen Con. They had this big reveal where they had some of the members, some of the cast of Baldur's Gate 3 actually play a session using this new 3D virtual tabletop. And then it disappeared for a while, and then closed alpha testing started happening. I actually got in at the tail end of the closed alpha. And then in February, they officially launched Project Sigil without really any fanfare. It just kind of happened. Well, according to a number of different people, including one person that used to be on the Project Sigil team, Wizards of the Coast has laid off about 30 members of the team that was working on Project Sigil, which accounts for roughly 90% of this is staff working on it. So a lot of people are now reporting that Project Sigil is dead, gone, done for, which I don't think 100% we can definitely guarantee. Yeah, it's 100% done. However, based on my own interactions with the product and how it's kind of gone, I think there's a good chance that Project Sigil just isn't going to be a thing anymore. Let me explain. So, history-wise, I've mentioned this before, but the idea of Wizards of the Coast creating a virtual tabletop is not a new one. Way back in 2006, when they were designing 4th edition, one of the things that they were designing in parallel with 4th edition was a virtual tabletop, so you could literally play D&D online using their own proprietary software. And in order to be able to access this, you would need to have what was called a D&D Insider account. And so what an Insider account gave you was access to the virtual tabletop and then access to the character creator and a bunch of other stuff. It was really, really nice. Well, 4th edition launched in 2008, and they had told people when they launched 4th edition, yeah, we're going to have this really cool virtual tabletop. This is going to be this amazing thing. Which back in 2008, playing D&D online was still a very, very new thing. Wizards of the Coast's virtual tabletop would not have been the first one to exist, but it would have been one of the first. And the person that was leading it, some stuff happened, and without getting into too many gory details, um, they they ended their own existence along with the existence of, I believe, their immediate family. Um, and so that was this really major thing. And the other problem with that whole situation was that person who was no longer existing, um, basically without them the project just wasn't going to go forward, and so that was kind of canceled, and D&D Insider effectively became just a subscription service for 4th edition rule books and the character creator. It was a fantastic deal. It was $10 a month, and it gave you literally everything in 4th edition. It was so phenomenally great. So fast forward, 5th edition comes out, and there's no mention of a virtual tabletop. But a few years into 5th edition, there's this company that has created these online tools for D&D called D&D Beyond. Originally, they effectively just licensed the D&D products, but they were their own company. Eventually, Wizards of the Coast purchased them, and then D&D Beyond became their official storefront for buying things from Wizards of the Coast, because the old Wizards of the Coast storefront really sucked. And it became the official online tool for D&D, and it became kind of their online marketing arm. Well, one of the things that D&D Beyond had been working on was creating their own virtual tabletop, which still exists. It's called Maps. It's actually a pretty decent. I still prefer standalone tabletops for a couple of reasons. One, Maps is great for Dungeons and Dragons, and that's it. And two, it doesn't have all the features of something like Roll20, where I can import my own music tracks. I can run any system that I want in there. I can import my own maps and draw and things like that. Like, it's just not quite there, but it's getting there. Well, at the same time that was happening, Wizards of the Coast, after the huge success of Baldur's Gate 3, realized that the idea of having a proprietary virtual tabletop was something that technically they had in Maps, but again, Maps is going to have to compete with Fantasy Grounds, is going to have to compete with Roll20, and like a dozen other virtual tabletops that all do basically the same thing. And so what they decided to do is like, well, what if we did a 3D virtual tabletop and we made it work like Baldur's Gate? We've already seen Baldur's Gate in and of itself, Baldur's Gate 3 in and of itself, is a 3D virtual tabletop. That's effectively what it is. It's a significantly more advanced 3D virtual tabletop. But if they add in effectively like a Dungeon Master mode, you can already add mods and stuff to Baldur's Gate 3, and people are making their own campaigns and stuff like that. But if they were ever to add like a Dungeon Master mode, you effectively could run D&D campaigns in the Baldur's Gate 3 engine. However, the Baldur's Gate 3 engine is not D&D 5th edition. It's a modified version of it that works super well, but it's not compatible with all the stuff that D&D puts out. Effectively, anytime something gets imported to Baldur's Gate 3, they have to change a bunch of things to work with the fact that it's a video game instead of, a TTRPG. So they got this idea, well, let's make a virtual tabletop. We're going to make it work like Baldur's Gate 3. So you effectively, the goal of Project Sigil was that you could play D&D entirely in Project Sigil. You wouldn't need anything else open. You wouldn't need D&D Beyond open. You wouldn't need anything. You would just open up Project Sigil. You would go to the game session, and then that would be everything that you need. Ambitious, but not outside the realm of reason. Again, we already have something that is almost 100% that, and that is Baldur's Gate 3. So the proof of concept was already there. And Larian is not a massive studio. They are a relatively large studio. Like everyone that claims that Larian is this tiny little indie dev, they're not. If I remember correctly, I believe they have well over 100 employees. So let's go. Larian Studios employee counts. So yeah, let's see. Yeah. They have approximately, according to the Google AI overview, feel free to ignore this if you don't like, but from what I'm seeing here, roughly about 470 employees. So Larian is not, a tiny little independent studio. They're a pretty decent sized studio. If we do some interpretation, or rather, we do some very, very basic math, where we take 30 divided by 0.9. If 30 people getting laid off was 90% of the team, then the team itself was somewhere in the neighborhood of between like 34 and 36 people, roughly, if we want to use math and stuff like that. So when we compare the team working on the 3D virtual tabletop to Larian, we're looking at orders of magnitude of difference. But the 3D tabletop didn't actually need to do everything that Baldur's Gate needed to do. It didn't need to be able to have cutscenes. It didn't need to be able to have a plot or anything like that. It just needed to be able to run Dungeons and Dragons. So the idea behind Project Sigil, good one, and I think it was one that might have been able to succeed. However, this is where business decisions and marketing decisions start becoming issues. Again, I don't know how long the team had been working on Project Sigil, but my understanding is it wasn't very long, maybe a year or two. And then when they announced it in last summer, it was, to be blunt, it was not ready for prime time. It was just not ready to be revealed. However, with the D&D 5.5 and then announcements and everything happening like that, they wanted to get something out there. And then when we come around to February, we have seen the lukewarm response to D&D 5.5. We have seen traditional sales numbers not being quite as high as normal, and sales for the market just in general have been kind of on a downward trend for the last couple of years, especially when we compare it to the huge boom that happened during 2020, 2021 during lockdowns and all that stuff. So my theory here is they decided, well, we need to drum up some hype. Let's go ahead and put this out. And the product that they put out just doesn't work. I was in the closed alpha, closed beta, whatever they want to call it. I played it after it came out, and it just doesn't work. Again, there's a built-in initiative tracker. There's a built-in combat tracker, so you can actually run combat inside of it. But the combat tracker doesn't actually work. It doesn't keep track of the action economy correctly. It doesn't allow you to modify attacks and things like that so that they can do the correct damage. It doesn't have most of D&D 5th edition in there. Like, there aren't really any magic items in it. Like, it is really, really rough from that standpoint. And there's lots of bugs. It requires a really decent computer to be able to run it. Because it's running on Unreal Engine 5, which can be a bit of a resource hog, especially if it's not optimized correctly, which this one wasn't. And there are a ton of glitches and game-breaking bugs that would cause issues, that would cause the program to crash, that would cause things to not work the way they were supposed to. It just, again, was not ready for prime time. So, this recent announcement, which again, the only confirmation I've been able to see officially is one of the people that I believe is either the head of the team or one of the higher ups on the actual development team mentioned that they got laid off along with 30 other people. Now, the person in question, I can't remember their name, I actually went and looked up what it was that they do. And they're not a programmer or anything. My understanding is they worked for Wizards of the Coast for a little while during 3rd edition and 4th edition. They helped design for 4th edition a little bit. But they're a game designer. They are not a programmer or a tech person or something like that. So losing that particular person for this thing is really not that big a deal, to be blunt. The game has already been designed. You don't actually need a quote-unquote game designer to be able to create this 3D tabletop. The game has already been designed. However, losing 29 people in addition to that does point more towards a, hey, we're going to kind of give up on this. And again, from what I have read, which has all been kind of insider information, Wizards of the Coast has not commented publicly on this in any way, shape, or form, so most definitely take this with a massive, massive grain of salt. But what I've been able to look into, the word on the street right now is they're going to try and fold in the stuff from Project Sigil into Maps. Which again, Maps is their 2D virtual tabletop, and it's a nice virtual tabletop. If all you're doing is playing Dungeons and Dragons, specifically 5th edition, it's great. You can drag and drop monsters onto the field. It'll auto populate their stat blocks and stuff on there. If you're running pre-written adventures, they have the maps for a lot of the pre-written adventures already loaded in. So if you want to run Curse of Strahd, running it through Maps is probably one of the easiest ways to do it that exists. I believe they do have like audio options as well, though it's been a while since I've played around with it. So it's a very nice, very, very new virtual tabletop that is integrated with D&D Beyond. So things like being able to import your character from D&D Beyond right into a battle is a really, really useful thing. And being able to use your D&D Beyond character sheet while you are playing is really, really nice. Now, as far as how are they going to integrate the stuff that they did with Sigil into D&D Beyond, I've got no flippin' clue. They are so different in how they interacted, and the few things that I could see them maybe porting over, Maps doesn't need. Like the ability to, basically run D&D 5th edition like a video game that they were trying to be able to do with Project Sigil is not something that Maps needs to even attempt. Like, that would not be an enjoyable experience for anything. Again, Sigil was really, really rough around the edges. A lot of things didn't work. Maps work significantly better for stuff like that. So I have no idea what is meant by, well, we're going to try and integrate Project Sigil into Maps, unless they're going to try and make a 3D version of Maps that runs on the Maps app or something like that. But I don't know. But anyway, as far as like D&D news, like everyone and their mother right now is claiming that Wizards of the Coast is dying and D&D is over, and it's, none of that is true. It's still the number one tabletop RPG on the market. I made a video about this already where people were talking about, oh, it's not selling very well. No, we have no data to support that. All we know is that traditional sales outlets are ranking it slightly lower than it used to be. And the numbers that we're getting for that aren't great as far as measuring things for the tabletop RPG market. It's just a bad. It's kind of like claiming that cars are on decline because Walmart is selling less oil filters. There's, yeah, theoretically, if people are buying less oil filters, that might mean that they're just driving their cars less from Walmart, or it might just be that they're not buying them from Walmart. Like, there's a billion different reasons why Walmart might not be selling as many oil filters as they used to. It might be that just oil filter technology has gotten better, so they don't need to be replaced as often, or a billion other things. The same thing is true about everyone that's claiming that, Wizards of the Coast sales are down. We don't have any numbers to support that. We have one dude that seems to be very bitter about leaving Wizards of the Coast, looking at one bestseller list that doesn't actually track the majority of the places where D&D books are sold anymore, and claiming that means that D&D is doing really, really poorly. Now, I mentioned before, I do think 5th edition is on its decline. Every single time we've had a 0.5 version of a system, it is marked kind of the halfway point in general, and it has gone downhill from there. D&D 3.5, 4th edition, the Essentials line, same basic thing. 5.5 is going to be the same basic thing, and I think the downfall is going to be much faster because 5th edition has just existed so much longer than any of the other systems before they had their halfway point. So yeah, I do believe that 5th edition is on the decline, which isn't a bad thing. Again, it is already the longest supported version of Dungeons and Dragons that has ever existed. It has had a fantastic run, and 6th edition is probably going to be very interesting and fun. And that's how tabletop RPGs work. So it's not a bad thing that this edition is eventually going to die. And that might have been one of the reasons why they decided to kind of pull the wool out from under Project Sigil, because Project Sigil had to have started being created before 5.5 was a thing. So while they're designing everything, they were designing it for the 2014 base version of D&D 5th edition. And then by the time that they're getting ready to publish it, they're going to have to make all these changes, adding in weapon masteries and all that stuff. And it makes for a significantly more difficult process. And again, from what I can see, they probably have years before it's going to be actually ready, and something that people actually want to pay for. When a couple of years, we may not have D&D 5th edition publishing books anymore. We may already have work starting out on D&D 6th edition. I've mentioned before, I think 5.5, they pushed it out too fast. They didn't playtest it anywhere near long enough. And I think they did that because they wanted it out for the 50th anniversary of Dungeons and Dragons. Perfectly fine, but it's not great. 5.5 has a lot of issues, and a lot of features just feel half-baked, or just really confusing. So the idea that they pushed out Sigil a little bit too quickly kind of fits with what they've been doing so far. And the amount of work it looks like it's going to take to get it into a place where it's going to be useful is going to cause issues if 5.5 continues on the downward trend that we're kind of expecting. Again, it's not dead. Wizards of the Coast is not dying. Nobody's going bankrupt or anything like that. It's just we have seen the peak of the 5th edition, which is perfectly fine and completely normal. Again, when D&D 4th edition peaked, it was still the number, after it peaked, was still the number one tabletop RPG on the market until 5th edition came out. Like, it still sold better than everything else, including, as much as Paizo doesn't want to admit it, including Pathfinder. It did exceptionally well all the way up until they released 5th edition. And then 5th edition did crazy numbers. There's a larger market for tabletop RPGs than have ever existed since they started over 50 years ago. There are more people playing Dungeons and Dragons today than have ever played ever before. And even with lower sales than previous books, they're still going to outsell every other book on the market. So the idea that, this is the end for Wizards of the Coast, it's not really a thing. However, I do think we can kind of expect, despite the fact that Wizards of the Coast hasn't officially announced anything, I think we can kind of expect that Project Sigil is done. And again, I thought it was really cool, the idea of it. And when I used it the few times that I've used it, I thought there was a lot of potential. Like, there was a lot of things that it could become. But as of the product that it is right now, it's just not worth using. There are significantly better things on the market right now that actually work. And Project Sigil just doesn't. So, yeah, it sucks that... now, on the other hand, it's also equally possible that the reason that they cleaned house and they only kept a few people on is the Project Sigil that was launched in February sucked. Like, again, it was a buggy mess. It doesn't work. There is a possibility that the reason that they fired 90% of the staff is they're going to bring a brand new to the team in to get it done correctly. I don't think that is particularly likely, but it is a possibility. Companies have done that. And again, Project Sigil is... the launch was bad enough that I could see people getting fired over it. Like, it was impressively bad. Compared to what it should have been for a launch, it was impressively bad. The lack of marketing also didn't help it as well. But if more people had played it, more people would have realized that it's a bad product. So it's theoretically possible that the reason all these people are out is because they're just like, you know what, we're done with this. You guys cannot do this, so we're going to bring in a new team of people that can. And Hasbro is a large enough company that they can do that, probably with very little effort. So there is a possibility that Sigil will still be a thing. But as of right now, it's looking like it's going to go in the same direction as the 4th edition tabletop, which is it's going to fade from existence. It was cool actually getting a product this time as compared to 4th edition where we got nothing. And maybe 6th edition we will finally get our fully realized virtual tabletop. Who knows? But, yeah. We'll see what happens. Interested to hear what you guys think. Did any of you guys actually try Project Sigil? And again, you can still go and download it right now. You need a D&D Beyond account to do it. But you can go download it right now and you can play around with it. I can't remember if you actually needed a subscription in order to be able to use all the features or not. Someone will have to check that out for me. But yeah, you can check it out and see your opinions on it. Because again, as of right now, according to Wizards of the Coast, nothing has changed. Like, they have made no announcements, nothing. So there's a good chance that until they make some sort of announcement, nothing's going to change with Sigil, and you can play around in it. So anyone that has tried it or goes out and try it, let me know your opinion of it in the comments down below. And what do you think about these announcements? Again, the vast majority of this is unsubstantiated. The only thing that I think we can be fairly confident about is the layoffs happened. Because, again, one of the people that was laid off has confirmed that. So, yeah, I think the layoffs 100% did happen. But beyond that, all the rest is speculation and insider sources. And if we all remember correctly, insider sources also, or reliable insider sources, also told us that nobody at Wizards of the Coast looks over the feedback that they got from all the playtest, which was a bold-faced lie. So I'm always hesitant to believe anytime someone claims that they have an insider as a source, because we've been lied to before. We've been lied to repeatedly. So, yeah, we'll see what happens. But if this is the end of Project Sigil, I will be sad to see what it could have been go. But as far as the Project Sigil that exists today, I won't miss it. It's all for me today. I will see you guys next time. All right? Bye-bye.